Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your stack of sources, extract the knowledge nuggets, and deliver you the essential understanding you need. Today, we're diving into a life that was, well, incredibly bright, but also deeply tragic. We're talking about the actress Brittany Murphy.
Yeah, it really is a story of extraordinary contrast. And I think that's why it's stuck around in people's minds for so long. We're looking at this career just marked by, amazing versatility. She could do comedy, intense drama. She even had success in music. But her last few years were just clouded, so much scrutiny, personal struggles, and then an ending that, frankly, is still confusing. You've got conflicting official reports, family claims, speculation.
Sure. Okay, so let's try and unpack that. Our mission today is really to get past the sort of sensational headlines and focus on the facts. We'll structure this chronologically, mostly. Look at her early life, that real drive she had, her rise in Hollywood, which was fast and, like you said, diverse. Then the pressure cooker of fame, her image, her health. And then, yeah, we have to confront the really difficult, unsettled questions around her death. She was only 32.
Incredibly young.
We got biographies, investigative pieces, documentaries. We'll try and synthesize it all for you.
Okay, so to really get a handle on her professional intensity, you kind of have to go back to her childhood. That drive was built in early. She was born Brittany Ann Bertolotti, Atlanta, in 1977. Her parents, Angela Bertolotti and Sharon Murphy, they divorced when she was really little, like 3. She was raised pretty much entirely by her mom, Sharon, in Edison, New Jersey.
And Sharon, her mother, she's absolutely central to Brittany's story, isn't she? It wasn't just being supportive. It sounds like real sacrifice. Brittany talked about it a lot. Famous quote, "When I asked my mom to move to California, she sold everything and moved out here for me. She always believed in me."
Yeah, that kind of backing, it fuels ambition, doesn't it? And this wasn't just a hobby. From age 4, she was training, seriously training, singing, dancing, acting lessons. By 10, she's already performing. Theater debut in Really Rosie, even did a local Les Miserables.
Wow.
She said later, her first memories were about wanting to entertain people, so that focus was there like right from the start. Very singular.
The sources also point to some insecurity there, too, tied to their early life. Maybe he contributed to things later. It sounds like they struggled financially while she was pursuing all this.
Yeah, that comes through. Sharon apparently had a tough time making ends meet. Brittany talked about, eating spaghetti every night sometimes, begging her mom for clothes from Kmart. It suggests a real feeling of, well, lack. And if you connect that, the experience of early struggle, it can translate into this really intense desire, not just for fame, but for security, stability. That drive definitely pushed her career, and it paid off. 1991, she's 13, they make the big move. LA, full-time acting pursuit.
And Hollywood happened faster, didn't it? A quick role on Murphy Brown, then she lands her first big recurring part, Brenda Drexel, in Drexel's Class. She was only 14.
So young.
But the one role, the one that everyone remembers, that cemented her, Clueless, 1995.
Clueless was absolutely the turning point, based on Jane Austen's Emma, of course. She played Ty Frazier, the makeover project for Alicia Silverstone's character, Cher. She was just 17 when they filmed it, late 94. Youngest main cast member.
And that film was huge, but kind of unexpectedly right. A sleeper hit.
Totally. Made, what, $56 million domestically? On a pretty small budget. And it developed this massive cult following, still has it today.
Yeah, her character, Ty, goes through that whole transformation, grunge kid to popular girl. Kind of ironic, maybe, given the pressure she faced later about her own image.
That's a really interesting point. And what's telling is how the cast reacted to her. Alicia Silverstone especially, she apparently talked about Brittany's audition. Silverstone apparently told the producers, you guys, did you see that? Because Brittany just brought this intensity, this improvisational spark it wasn't expected. Shows how undeniable her talent was, even then, as a teenager, just magnetic.
But she clearly wasn't content just being the funny sidekick from Clueless. She shifted gears pretty quickly, didn't she? Late 90s, started aiming for more serious stuff.
Absolutely. A deliberate move into prestige drama. That includes her performance in Girl, interrupted in 99, James Mangold film. She played Daisy Randone, the troubled patient. Really highly praised for that. Got a Young Artist Award nomination, showed a depth people maybe didn't expect after Ty.
And even before that, she'd done Broadway, 1997, Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge.
Yeah.
So going from Clueless to Arthur Miller to Girl, interrupted, All in just a few years. That's some serious range.
Incredible agility professionally. And while all that film and stage stuff was happening, she had this constant gig on TV, voice work.
Right, King of the Hill.
Luann Platter. And Joseph Gribble, too, sometimes. She did that for the whole original run, 97, right up to 2009, basically until she died.
She seemed to like the voice work, didn't she? Like it was a bit of an escape.
Yeah, she mentioned enjoying it because, you could do it from home. She joked, you can do it even in your pajamas.
Huh? Yeah.
So you have this picture emerging, serious, dramatic actress, voice artist, Broadway performer, comedy star, truly versatile, which sadly sometimes gets forgotten because of how things ended.
Okay, so let's move into the 2000s.
Yeah.
This is when her career really explodes into the mainstream, leading lady roles, big studio movies. This is her peak professionally. But it's also where the pressure seems to really start building, impacting her personally.
Her film list from the early 2000s is pretty striking. She showed she could do Thriller's Don't Say a Word in 2001 opposite Michael Douglas. Then came 8 Mile in 2002. Got major critical acclaim for playing Alex, Eminem's love interest in that semi-autobiographical film.
And the box office hits came right after. Just Married with Ashton Kutcher in 2003. That one. Critics hated it, right?
Yeah.
Got Razzie nomination.
Oh, yeah, I got hammered by critics.
But it made a ton of money, over $100 million worldwide. So commercially, a huge success. And Uptown Girls was the same year.
She had this knack for balancing the serious and the commercial. Later, she's in Sin City, that neo-noir film in 2005. Big ensemble cast. And we can't forget Happy Feet in 2006, voicing Gloria the Penguin. Showed off her singing voice again, beyond just King of the Hill.
It's fascinating how respected she seemed to be within the industry itself. Not just for, hitting her marks, but for that unpredictable energy, that magnetism we saw way back in Clueless. There's that great story involving Roger Ebert, the film critic. He really admired her talent.
Yeah, Ebert's take really gets to the heart of what made her special. He actually compared her comedic timing, her physicality to Lucille Ball.
Wow, high praise.
Huge praise. And he told this story about the 2003 Independent Spirit Awards. She was just supposed to present an award. Simple task. Read 5 names, open envelope, announce winner.
Okay. That sounds straightforward.
But instead, she turned it into this piece of, as Ebert called it, screwball improvisational comedy.
Wow.
She basically pretended she couldn't understand the instructions, like fumbling with the envelope, looking confused by the teleprompter. Apparently, the stage manager had to whisper instructions to her twice. The audience started shouting advice.
Seriously. People must have thought she was out of it or something.
Exactly. Ebert said some people were dumbfounded by her stupidity, thinking she was genuinely confused, maybe drunk or high. But Ebert saw it instantly. He said he was dumbfounded by her brilliance. He realized she was totally in control, performing, creating this chaos intentionally.
That's incredible. It really does capture that persona, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Chaotic, magnetic, but artistically brilliant. Able to channel that unpredictability.
Yeah. And alongside all this acting success, she was pursuing music too. Genuinely talented there as well.
Right. That often gets overlooked.
She'd trained musically from way back, played piano, trumpet, was in a band, Blessed Soul, in the early 90s. But her big mainstream music moment came in 2006. She featured on that Paul Oakenfold dance track, Faster Kill Pussycat.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was a huge club hit.
Massive. Hit #1 on the Billboard Hot Dance Club Play chart, showed a totally different side of her. And tragically, it charted again after she passed away.
She also sang on the Happy Feet soundtrack, didn't she?
Yep, 2 covers, Queen's Somebody to Love and Earth, Wind and Fire's Boogie Wonderland.
She seemed to keep that side of her talent a bit separate, though.
She did. She said something like, "My singing voice isn't like my speaking voice. I've just always kept it a secret." Apparently, Madonna was a big childhood inspiration. She dreamed of being her own version of Madonna.
So much talent.
Yeah.
So versatile. But it's right at this peak, this moment of huge success and visibility, that the personal scrutiny, especially about her image, just becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, and this really brings up, tough questions about how Hollywood treated young actresses back then in the 2000s. She lost a noticeable amount of weight in the early part of the decade, and the media reaction was immediate and, frankly, vicious, just launched straight into rumors. Cocaine, bulimia, anorexia.
Which she denied, right? Emphatically denied.
Absolutely. Said in 2005 she'd never even tried cocaine in my entire life.
But the weight loss, it sounds like it wasn't necessarily addiction driving it, but the pressure from the industry.
That's what the sources strongly suggest. She spoke pretty openly, devastatingly really, about the cruelty. She mentioned a very important Hollywood figure telling her she wasn't desirable enough.
Ugh,
The exact quote she shared was that she was huggable but not fable.
that's brutal. Just soul-crushing to hear, especially when you're trying to succeed.
Incredibly damaging. And her friend, the actress Melanie Lynskey, talked about seeing that damage firsthand, said it broke her heart seeing Brittany struggle with her self-image. Lynskey pointed out that Brittany was perfect as she was early on, but people kept trying to label her the fat one just because she had, slightly rounder cheeks as a teenager.
It's horrible. That internal conflict, who she was versus who Hollywood told her she had to be, it seems to have led to some contradictions.
Yeah, like that Rolling Stone interview. The journalist noted she was involved in anti-smoking campaigns for kids.
Yeah.
But during the interview itself, she was apparently lighting up cigarettes constantly while also denying she smoked at all.
Yeah. That speaks volumes about the pressure to maintain a certain image, even when it contradicts reality. A real fracture.
And as the decade wore on, people who worked with her started noticing her health seemed to be declining. Anecdotes about her being weak on set, sometimes needing help just to move around. Yeah, reports she struggled to even stand up on her own sometimes. Which, looking ahead to how things ended, takes on a really chilling significance, doesn't it? Given the health issues cited in her death.
Definitely. Okay, let's pivot now from her career and the public pressures to her personal relationships. These were also under a huge spotlight during this time.
She had some very public romances before her marriage. Dated Ashton Kutcher right after Just Married. That was 2002, 2003.
Huge celebrity couple then. Weren't there engagement rumors?
Loads of them, yeah. Never officially confirmed, but it definitely put her right in the center of the tabloid frenzy.
And her friendship with Winona Ryder from Girl, Interrupted, we mentioned that earlier, that got twisted too, didn't it?
Oh yeah, totally blown out of proportion. They shared like a joke kiss in a car during some TV interview, just friends messing around.
And the media ran with it.
Turned it into these baseless rumors she was a lesbian. She actually had to publicly deny it, joking she'd become Winona Ryder's lesbian lover. Shows how quick the media was to just slap a label on her.
Wow. And then there was the speculation about Eminem after 8 Mile.
Right. Huge fan of his, apparently, and their chemistry on screen was undeniable. So naturally, romance rumors flew. They were eventually denied, but Eminem's reaction years later when she died is quite telling. He said in an interview it was crazy and that he was basically terrified of dying under similar circumstances.
Referencing the whole Hollywood pressure, the sudden deaths.
Yeah, exactly. The overdoses, the unexplained passings happening around that time.
So this period of intense high-profile dating, it ends pretty abruptly. She had a couple of brief engagements to a manager, Jeff Quatinetz, and a production assistant, Joe Macaluso. But then she meets Simon Monjack, British screenwriter. And they get married very quickly, May 2007. And this seems to be where things really take a dark turn. Her isolation starts.
Yeah, they married privately, Jewish ceremony, and from then on, it was the three of them living together. Brittany, her mom Sharon, and Monjack, in that big Hollywood Hills house.
The same house that has all this tragic history attached to it now. Didn't Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake live there before?
Oh, that's the one.
No.
Yeah. A house with its own kind of notoriety.
Let's talk about the narrative that really solidified after her death, particularly in those documentaries, like the HBO Max one, What Happened, Brittany Murphy. Simon Monjack became the central figure in this story of, well, control and alleged abuse.
The descriptions of Monjack from people who knew Brittany back then, they are almost universally damning. Mark Ebner, an investigative journalist in One Dog, just laid it out brutally. He called Monjack, and I'm quoting here, a liar, a cheat, a thief, a sociopath, a con artist, and a narcissist, all wrapped up in one ball of dysfunction.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
And the sources really back up this idea that he started isolating her almost immediately. Friends like Lisa Riefel, another actress, said Monjack basically took her away, stopped her from seeing her old friends.
She just disappeared from their lives.
That's what Riefel said. Brittany just vanished after the marriage.
And the lies he allegedly told, they seem pretty extraordinary, designed to build this image of wealth and connections.
Totally. Claims of being a multimillionaire, having a Ferrari collection. He also apparently claimed he dated Madonna and Elle Macpherson, just fabricating this whole glamorous past.
But the most disturbing one might be the medical lie, right? Claiming he survived cancer.
Yes, spinal and brain cancer. That's a story guaranteed to get sympathy, lets him position himself as this brave survivor. He even claimed he beat it with, like, experimental shark cartilage treatments.
Shark cartilage.
And apparently that wasn't the first time he'd used that story. His ex-fiancée, Elizabeth Ragsdale, gave this explosive testimony, called him a disturbed individual who specialized in scams. Ragsdale said Monjack left her high and dry while she was pregnant, and she only figured out the cancer story was a lie after she contacted his mother. Ragsdale basically said Brittany was just his latest victim.
It raises such a difficult question, though. Brittany was smart, successful. She'd navigated Hollywood. Why would she be so vulnerable to someone whose stories seem, at least in hindsight, so fabricated?
It's probably a tragic mix of things, isn't it? You've got someone already wounded by the industry, feeling insecure despite her talent. Remember that awful huggable comment. Monjack seems to have targeted successful but vulnerable women. He likely showered her with this intense, all-consuming attention, the validation maybe she wasn't getting elsewhere. He became her manager, her agent, her everything, effectively isolating her.
Building a wall around her.
Exactly. Became her shield, kept out anyone who might challenge his narrative or burst the bubble.
Friends like Kathy Najimy talked about feeling uneasy at the time, asking each other, who is this guy? What's going on? They even tried an intervention, apparently, but it failed. Shows how strong his grip was.
Yeah, Sarah Hamill, a reporter, kind of summed up what a lot of sources imply. If it weren't for Simon Monjack, there's a good chance Brittany Murphy would still be alive.
But here's a complication, maybe. Her mother, Sharon. She was fiercely loyal to Brittany, lived in the house with them, and she initially defended Monjack after Brittany died. That muddies the water a bit, doesn't it? It wasn't pure isolation if her mom was right there.
It absolutely complicates it. It's just a really complex, maybe codependent dynamic between the three of them in that house. While Monjack was clearly manipulative, Sharon's presence and her initial loyalty to him, especially defending him against the drug rumors right after Brittany died, suggests maybe he manipulated both of them. Or maybe Sharon felt she needed him after her daughter's sudden death. It adds another layer to the story.
Okay, so this intense, isolated, scrutinized life, it leads us directly to December 20th, 2009. The end, yeah. 8:20 a.m., LA Fire Department gets a medical call from that Hollywood Hills house. Brittany Murphy had collapsed in the bathroom. They transported her to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. She was pronounced dead just about 2 hours later. Cardiac arrest. Age 32. The coroner's investigation started immediately. Their official findings came out a couple of months later, February 2010. Manner of death. Accidental.
Right. The official cause was listed as acute pneumonia. But critically, it was exacerbated by two other factors: severe iron deficiency anemia,
Right.
and what the report called multiple drug intoxication. They found a range of medications in her system, prescription and over-the-counter.
What kind of drugs are we talking about?
Things like hydrocodone, that's a strong opioid painkiller, like Vicodin, acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, L-methamphetamine, which you find in some over-the-counter nasal decongestants like Vicks inhalers, and chlorpheniramine, a common antihistamine.
So a mix of things.
Yeah.
Some quite strong, some just common cold meds. But the combination, especially given her state.
Exactly. The report specifically noted that the possible adverse physiological effects of elevated levels of these medications cannot be discounted, especially in her weakened state. That phrase is key.
Weakened state meaning the anemia and the pneumonia.
Precisely. She was severely anemic, her body was starved for oxygen because of low red blood cells, and she had pneumonia, which obviously affects breathing. So you introduce this cocktail of drugs, even if legal, especially ones that can sedate you or act as decongestants, in a body already fighting for oxygen. It likely just overwhelmed her system. Accidental cardiac arrest was the result.
But initially, Monjack and Sharon Murphy pushed back against that, didn't they? They tried to control the story.
They did. They strongly denied drugs were involved. They claimed it was because of a heart condition she supposedly had, mitral valve prolapse, and that she was being treated for it.
But the coroner didn't find that was the primary cause.
No. Their findings contradicted that narrative. They acknowledged some pre-existing conditions, but stated the acute causes were the infection, pneumonia, the severe malnutrition suggested by the anemia, and that drug mixture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the story takes that truly bizarre, deeply unsettling twist. 5 months later, May 23, 2010.
Simon Monjack is found dead in the exact same house.
And the cause of death.
Unbelievably, the coroner's report lists the exact same primary causes: acute pneumonia and severe anemia.
Identical causes. In the same house. 5 months apart.
The statistical probability of that happening randomly is, well, vanishingly small. It completely changed the narrative. It couldn't just be a tragic, isolated medical event for Brittany anymore. And this immediately led to two major competing theories trying to explain these twin deaths: toxic mold and later, a poisoning claim.
Let's take the mold theory first, the house itself being the culprit.
Right. Given the two deaths with identical respiratory and blood issues, the LA County Department of Health Services did look into toxic mold as a potential factor. It seemed plausible environmentally.
But the coroner dismissed it.
Yeah, the deputy coroner, Ed Winter, was pretty firm publicly, said there were no indicators that mold played a role in either death. So you had this split. Official finding says no, public suspicion says maybe.
And complicating it further was Sharon Murphy's changing story about the mold.
Hugely complicating. Initially, she called the mold reports absurd, defended the house, defended Monjack. But then, December 2011, almost 2 years after Brittany died, she does a complete 180. Announces publicly she now believes toxic mold killed both her daughter and her son-in-law, and she filed a lawsuit against the home's builders based on that claim.
Why the change of heart? Any idea?
It's really unclear. Was it new evidence? Was it grief needing an external cause? Was it related to the potential financial outcome of a lawsuit? We just don't know, but it adds this layer of confusion and contradiction.
Okay, so that's the mold theory. Then there's the poisoning claim brought forward by Brittany's estranged father.
Angelo Bertolotti, yeah. He'd been mostly out of her life, but he came back into the picture, questioning the official findings. In 2012, he petitioned to get hair samples from the coroner for his own independent testing. He suspected foul play.
And his tests found something.
This was the most explosive claim. In 2013, he released results from his chosen lab, alleging they found evidence of deliberate poisoning by heavy metals, specifically antimony and barium.
Antimony and barium. What are those?
Antimony is used in things like flame retardants, batteries. Exposure can cause symptoms weirdly similar to what Brittany experienced: nausea, anemia. Barium is another heavy metal used industrially. Acute poisoning can cause weakness, respiratory failure.
So her father was basically saying someone intentionally poisoned her with these specific toxins, not that she just accidentally took too many cold meds.
That was his claim, that the levels found in her hair were consistent with poisoning, not accidental exposure.
How did the authorities react to that?
The LA County coroner stood by their original findings. They said the testing from the father's lab was inconclusive, didn't override their conclusion of accidental death complicated by pneumonia, anemia, and the mix of medications. And Sharon Murphy immediately shot down her ex-husband's claims too, called it a smear, basically accusing him of trying to profit from Brittany's death.
So you end up with these completely unresolved, contradictory, and really explosive claims. No wonder the media interest hasn't faded. We keep seeing these documentaries pop up. Brittany Murphy, an ID mystery in 2020, then the HBO Max series What Happened, Brittany Murphy, in 2021.
Exactly. But the criticism some people have leveled at these docs is that they often get sucked into the mystery, especially focusing on Monjack, and maybe lose sight of Brittany herself, her talent. Daniel Feinberg at The Hollywood Reporter had a pretty sharp critique of the HBO Max one. He said it felt like roughly 20% a reminder of Murphy's transcendent talent, 30% a dead-end investigation into the mystery of her death, and 50% an unilluminating examination of Murphy's late husband.
That's a tough assessment.
Yeah.
His point being that she deserved better than the media treatment she got both in life and after.
Yeah. It highlights this ongoing tragedy. Her incredible talent, her unique spark often gets sidelined by the sensationalism around her death and the focus on Monjack's alleged role. Her work becomes secondary to the mystery.
Okay, so wrapping this up, how do we summarize her legacy? Stepping back from the mystery for a moment.
The sources paint her as this unique, magnetic force in Hollywood. Adam White in Days Digital had a great description, calling her magnetic, with the rare ability to seem completely approachable and terrifying.
Approachable and terrifying. Interesting combo. He mentioned her laugh too, didn't he? Big body laugh. Said her presence felt like dancing in your room to a Spice Girls song. Like relatable, but also full of energy.
Yeah, that captures that unique mix she had, down to earth, but also eccentric and super talented. But White also made the point that, sadly, she died too young to build that really long, sustained body of work that defines a legacy, and maybe too quietly for posthumous superstardom, despite the enduring mystery.
It's more personal reflections from people who knew her, like Dakota Fanning, her co-star from Uptown Girls, just expressing gratitude for having known her. It seems the people who worked closely with her really saw that brilliance.
Definitely. A talent extinguished way too soon.
And there's that final sort of footnote about attempts to honor her memory. the foundation?
Wow. January 2010, soon after she died, Monjack and Sharon Murphy set up the Brittany Murphy Foundation. The idea was children's arts education, cancer research.
But it ran into problems.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Turns out they hadn't actually filed the paperwork to become a proper nonprofit with the IRS. They had to refund all the donations they'd received. They said they'd rushed it and would relaunch once the status was official.
The day.
Her father, Angelo Bertolotti, tried briefly to restart it in 2013 under his name. But as of a few years ago, 2018 or so, the sources indicate it's basically defunct. Just another sad end note, really.
So if we pull all these threads together, what's the big picture from this deep dive?
You see this life just marked by intense professional highs, huge talent, but also extreme personal vulnerability, a lot of it driven by that relentless image pressure. And then you have an ending where clear answers just remain elusive. You're left juggling these competing narratives. Was it a tragic accident? Was the house itself toxic? Was it something more sinister? All centered on those two identical deaths in that one house.
The talent was absolutely there, undeniable. But the circumstances around her Monjack's influence, the self-image struggles, and then the dual deaths, it creates this deeply sad story where the medical facts just don't quite satisfy that need for a clear single answer. So we'll leave you, the listener, with this final thought to consider. We have Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack dying from the exact same rare combination, acute pneumonia and severe anemia, 5 months apart, in the same house. We have official reports, conflicting family claims, mold theories, poisoning allegations. Given all that, what specific factor in that shared environment, be it medical, environmental, or even relational, do you think warrants the most critical ongoing investigation? Something to think about as you reflect on her incredible but tragically short life and career.